Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that is, honestly, one of the coolest microscopic phenomena in all of biology. We're talking about tissues. But actually, scratch the boring textbook definition. I want you to picture them as this incredibly dynamic, super efficient microscopic workforce. It's literally like a bustling, thriving city inside living things. Okay, let's dive into this. But before we map out our city layout, I've got a bit of a biological mystery for you. Just imagine you're mowing the lawn, right? Or picture a cow grazing in a field, cleanly slicing the tops off the grass. Now, logically, you'd think the plant should just stop growing. I mean, you chopped its head off. Yet, literally within days, it sprouts right back up. So, how does a plant actually keep growing even after you completely cut its top off? Keep that tucked in the back of your mind because the mechanics we're going to uncover today hold the exact answer. Okay, so let's zoom out and look at the big picture for a second. We all know life starts small, right? We begin with just a single solitary unit, the cell. But to build complex life, you need way more than just a bunch of loose cells floating around doing their own thing. So those cells group together to form tissues. Then those tissues form organs, think your heart or a plant's leaf. From there, organs group into whole organ systems. And finally, all those systems team up to run the complete living organism. It is just a massive, incredible hierarchy of teamwork. And the absolute secret sauce behind all this teamwork is a concept called the division of labor. Think back to our biological city analogy. I mean, you wouldn't want the local baker trying to pave the city roads, right? It'd be a disaster. It's the same in a multicellular organism. Different tissues take on very specific jobs. Your muscle tissues specialize in moving you around, your nervous tissues act as the high-speed internet cables for communication, and your blood is basically the city's delivery service. By specializing, these tissues make the whole organism insanely efficient. It's the ultimate power of unity. And this perfectly illustrates two totally different blueprints for life, plants versus animals. Look at plants. They're pretty much stuck in one place. They don't have to hustle around, hunting for food, so they require way less energy. Because of that, their structural blueprint relies heavily on dead, supportive tissues, basically just rigid scaffolding to keep them standing tall against gravity. But animals? We are dynamic. We're constantly moving around, searching for food, running for shelter, so we burn through a ton of energy. And because of that active lifestyle, our bodies are built almost entirely out of living, breathing tissues. Section 1. How plants actually grow. All right, let's meet the plant city's construction crew, the meristematic tissue. These are the actively dividing, relentlessly growing cells of the plant. And what's absolutely fascinating is how organized this crew is. You've got the apical meristem working exclusively at the very tips of the roots and stems. They're the ones driving the plant upwards and downwards. Then you've got the lateral meristem working out on the sides to increase the plant's girth, which is how we get those massive, thick tree trunks. And finally, there's the intercalary meristem, and they set up shop right at the nodes, which are basically the joints of the plant. And hey, that brings us right back to our opening lawnmower mystery. See, if you chop the top off of a plant, you're removing the apical meristem, so it can't grow taller from the tip anymore. But the plant has an emergency backup crew. Those intercalary meristems hanging out at the joints, they kick into total overdrive. They immediately start sending out new branches and regenerating leaves. And that is exactly why your lawn bounces back so fast after you mow it, and how grass completely survives getting munched on by animals all day long. Section 2. Plant architecture and plumbing. So, what happens when those actively dividing meristematic cells finally grow up? Well, they settle down into their permanent careers. In biology, we call this process differentiation. It's kind of like graduating from a wild, chaotic apprenticeship and landing a specialized, lifelong job. The cells permanently lose their ability to divide, and instead, they lock in a permanent shape, size, and function. They graduate to become what we call simple, permanent tissue. Now, these permanent builders fall into three distinct guilds. First up, the parenchyma. These are living tissues that handle food storage and packing things in. Oh, and fun fact, in aquatic plants, a version of this called aerenchyma actually traps air so the plant can float. Next, we have parenchyma. These are living cells with thickened corners that give the plant serious flexibility. It's what lets climbing vines bend and twist in strong winds without snapping in half. And finally, the sclerenchyma. These guys are completely dead cells, and their walls are packed with this tough biological cement called lignin. They provide hardcore mechanical support. If you've ever tried to crack open a walnut and felt that incredibly hard shell, yeah, you've met sclerenchyma. But as you know, a functioning city needs way more than just sturdy buildings. It needs plumbing, supply chains, and big, bustling highways. And that brings us to the complex, permanent tissue. Unlike those simple tissues we just talked about, which are all made of one single type of cell, complex tissues are completely different. They're diverse teams of different cells, all working seamlessly together to form this incredibly intricate internal transportation system. This is really where the plant city comes alive with trade and movement. So the main takeaway here is understanding the plant's two major highways, the xylem and the phloem. Think of the xylem as the heavy-duty water pipes. It pulls water and minerals all the way up from the deep roots and ships them to the rest of the plant. But because it's fighting gravity, it's a strictly one-way street, and it's built out of mostly dead, hollow tube elements that act like super strong straws. The phloem, on the other hand, is the food delivery highway. It takes the sweet sugars made in the leaves during photosynthesis and ships them anywhere in the plant that needs a quick energy boost. It's a two-way flow, and unlike the xylem, the phloem is mostly made up of living, active cells that carefully manage that critical food supply. Section 3, Plant Armor and Breathing. Okay, every good city needs a border patrol, right? For plants, that frontline defense is the epidermis. This is the very outermost layer of flat, living cells, and they are packed so tightly together there are zero gaps. In dry, desert-like environments, this layer gets coated in a thick, waxy cuticle to completely lock in water and keep out pathogens. But the border isn't totally sealed shut. The epidermis is dotted with these microscopic, highly regulated gates called stomata. They're governed by special guard cells that actively open and close them. These tiny pores let the plant breathe in carbon dioxide, exhale oxygen, and carefully manage water vapor. However, as plants, like massive oak trees, grow older and thicker, a delicate little living epidermis just isn't going to cut it anymore. They have to upgrade their armor to cork or phloem. The outer layers literally transform into dead cells heavily packed with a waterproof chemical called suberin. This turns the bark into a fortress, making it incredibly tough and completely impervious to water and gases. In fact, this tissue is so ridiculously good at sealing things out that we humans harvest it to make things like wine corks and the bottoms of shuttlecocks. Section 4. The Animal Shield, Epithelium. Now, let's flip over to animals. For us, the primary defensive shield covering our insides and outsides is called epithelial tissue. And much like the plant's epidermis, we're talking about tightly packed cells with absolutely no spaces between them. They form a continuous, unbroken sheet that wraps around almost every single organ and cavity inside your body. And honestly, this isn't just some abstract concept on a slide. This is the exact armor that is keeping your own internal organs safe from the outside world right at this very moment. So animal epithelium comes in a few highly specialized varieties. Let's run through them, starting with squamous epithelium. I want you to picture these like incredibly delicate, extremely thin, flat floor tiles. And because they're literally paper thin, they are perfect for places where your body needs to rapidly exchange materials. We're talking the delicate lining of your mouth, inside your nose, the walls of your blood vessels, and those tiny little air sacs deep inside your lungs. But obviously, ultra-thin floor tiles are terrible for areas that take a heavy beating. Just take a look at your arm right now. That skin isn't just one single fragile layer. It is stratified squamous epithelium. Stratified just means stacked. So your body stacks multiple layers of these flat cells on top of each other to build a tough, super resilient barrier. It's custom designed to handle all the friction, the scratches, and the daily wear and tear you throw at it. Next up, we have the cuboidal epithelium. As you might guess from the name, these guys look like tiny little box-shaped workers. And their main gig isn't really protection. They are the body's chemical factories. They specialize in absorption and secretion. Right now, as we speak, you have thousands of these microscopic boxes tirelessly filtering waste inside your kidney tubules, churning out saliva in your mouth, and pumping out moisture in your sweat glands to keep you cool. And finally, we've got the columnar epithelium. These are tall, pillar-like cells, and that extra height gives them plenty of room to pack in a ton of cellular machinery. You'll find these lining your stomach and your intestines, where they powerfully absorb all the nutrients from your digested food. And in certain places, these tall pillars get an upgrade. They're topped with tiny, hair-like fringes called cilia. Down in your respiratory tract, these ciliated columns act like microscopic brooms. They are constantly sweeping mucus and trapped dust up and out of your airways just to keep your lungs perfectly clean. Which really brings us to just a mind-boggling realization.
As you sit here right now, watching this explainer, breathing in, digesting whatever you last ate, maybe sweating ever so slightly, there are literally billions upon billions of these microscopic workers flawlessly dividing their labor inside of you. From your epithelial shields to your muscle tissues to those high-speed neural highways, they are all executing their incredibly specialized jobs without you having to spare a single thought. It really does make you stop and wonder, doesn't it? What other invisible, quiet miracles are happening inside your biological city right this very second? Keep wondering, keep exploring, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.